Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. Today I'm reviewing The Void. This came out in 2016 and was co-directed by Jeremy Gillespie and Stephen Kostanski. The film focuses on Sheriff Deputy Carter, played by Aaron Poole, who discovers a blood-soaked man limping down a deserted road. He rushes him to the local hospital with a bare-bones night shift staff. As cloaked cult-like figures surround the building, the patient and staff inside start to turn ravenously insane. Trying to protect the survivors, Carter leads him into the depths of the hospital, where they discover a gateway to an immense evil. In many ways, this feels like a H.P Lovecraft sort of creation based upon his work. It isn't, but it has that feel about it, especially towards the end of the film. There's a real dark and unsettling feeling to this whole movie, but I really like that aspect to it. There's a bit grotesque in parts, and the sort of gory horror isn't my favourite, but I can see what they were going for and were able to accomplish all practically. One of the directors does prosthetics and creature design, and he does a fantastic job here. And he's really able to craft interesting, unique creatures and characters within this story. And a lot of them are played by people inside them, like there's physical people there, and there's only a small amount of digital effects used. This is a great example of a sort of real independent film that sort of just tells a small part of a bigger story. It's like everything serves a purpose, every character, everything that happens in the film serves a purpose towards the story. And there's nothing wasted, and it isn't weighed down by too much exposition or a variety of things. We're only shown certain things that are important for the story that they're telling. I think all the acting is solid. A lot of actors I didn't really know. I know Kenneth Walsh. Kathleen Munro I do know, who appears in it. She's been in a variety of things such as Supernatural and a variety of other TV shows, and she sort of plays little bit parts. She's really solid here playing Alison Fraser, you know, a nurse at this sort of bare-bones staffed hospital, and she sort of is a really interesting character that's sort of driving force for a lot of the story. There's also Ellen Wong who appears, that I know best from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, where she plays Knives in that film, which is quite clever, but it's kind of interesting to see her do a different role, and she's great in this. I like the feel of the film, I like the darkness, I like this unsettling and dark feeling throughout the movie that doesn't sort of let you go, not even at the end. There's no way to sort of breathe in this film. It's sort of one thing after another happens. There's a lot of violence, and like I said, there's grotesque moments, where you see particular creatures moving, and it just sort of feels a bit disgusting in that regard. Like one of the actors said in behind the scenes, he was talking about how the first half of the film really feels like a normal horror film, creature feature type thing. And then the second half of the film sort of goes into this existential horror. And that's the element I like the most. I like the idea of the cult, the simplicity of the design of their cloaks and a black triangle on their face, and what the black triangle represents. I like that something's unfolding. We don't know what to begin with. There's something happening, and people who are dead start to rise again, and there's a lot of darkness surrounding the hospital and the things that the characters in the hospital start to go through. I really like the look of it. Like, I like the design of the creatures and the cloaks that these sort of cult members wear. But it's really the third act and really the ending of the film that really captivated me. It's this idea of moving into something darker. You know what I mean? It's like us as human beings is just the beginning of the journey. The body that we're in is only the beginning. And as you strip that away, you start to see there's more there. And the leader of this group starts to look at the darkness of things. Looks at that there's portals to another sort of darker world, and that's what he sort of becomes part of. And in the end, it's sort of this character who's stripped off all of his skin, and he's sort of black with underneath. And it's a great design. He's a really great and interesting character. And it's just, the look of it's fantastic. I love the use of music as well in these particular sequences. It's just a well orchestrated and simple film that just sort of is well executed, and the simplicity of the story. I love the fact it's set at this one location in this hospital, that there was a fire that happened in the hospital, and that's where the darker stuff is sort of living, so to speak. And it looks at how the nurses and that of the hospital are moving somewhere else, so it's sort of closing down. Like the sheriff deputy getting this particular person there before it all closes up. It's sort of, there's an urgency there. And when they get trapped in there, the things that they experience within there is quite shocking and surprising. I like that this sort of a relationship or a bit of a backstory between the character of Daniel Carter and Alison Fraser, and we start to see what their relationship actually was, and I like that. And I like that everybody knows each other. It's a small town. There are scenes, there's one scene at the start of the film that really sets the tone and really throws you into the film, where there's a man and a woman running from a house. The man gets away, the woman gets shot, and then these two men appear, one older, one younger, and they pretty much light her on fire. And you don't quite know what's going on. You don't know who these people are or what's happening. We see inside the house there's dead bodies, there's blood and stuff everywhere. There's a particular door with the black triangle on it. You don't quite know what's going on. You don't really know who these men are or what they're doing. But as the film goes along, you start to see they're not the bad guys. They're trying to protect people from things. And I thought that was an interesting element. You really start to question all the characters in the whole film. When you're presented with them, you think they're one way and they turn out to be something else. I just think that was a really brilliant way to go about it. This is a real independent film. It was only made for $82,000, and that was a lot of crowdfunding and a lot of investors being involved in the particular project, which I thought was interesting. And what they're able to craft and create with the small amount of money is quite astonishing. I saw a documentary about the making of behind the scenes, and they were talking about how the day before they were going to shoot, an investor pulled out, and so they had to postpone, and they got someone else to come in and get involved. They sort of run out of time. There was things within it, like where we see all the cult members in these sort of white cloaks with the triangles on their face. They couldn't get that to look quite right, so they had to do a bit of digital effects. And there was a lot of other things they struggled with, but it was what they were able to accomplish with a small amount of money. And the fact that one of them did prosthetics and creature design, and had access to these variety of things, and the team members that they were able to craft these great moments in the film. There are scenes they weren't able to use, and particular creatures they weren't able to use because they ran out of time. But I just think it's such a fantastic film. It's dark and twisted. It's not a film that would probably be for everyone, but it's definitely worth a look if you like H.P Lovecraft or like something a bit darker and even more interesting than your average sort of horror film. And I think it has a really great ending as well, where it sort of leaves you with questions, like a lot of H.P Lovecraft stories, I guess. But it leaves you with questions, and you want to know more. But it's sort of a really great ending because you get to see what's through this particular portal thing they opened is. And I like that. I thought that was great. Final thoughts. At the essence, this film is really talking about existence and what it is to be human beings, and how there's this idea of rebirth. And this film really looks at it in a dark way, where you sort of move on from this world to something else. And I kind of like that aspect to it. It looks at relationships, it looks at people who feel regret for things, and people who are so desperate to recapture something they had. They'll do anything at any cost to accomplish that. The particular cult go down this really dark path in order to accomplish something. I just think it was really interesting, unique, brutal at times, but a very fascinating film that I found very captivating. I'm going to give The Void 4 out of 5. I thought it was solid and interesting and well done. And what they were able to achieve with a minimal budget was fantastic. And I really liked the story they were telling. And I liked the simplicity of the story. And the acting was really solid and it suited it really well. And I think they achieved something really fantastic with this. I would love to see them do more films in this sort of vein because I think it's fantastic. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please subscribe at the bottom. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.